have another momentous occasion, and if we can just take a moment to recognize and think about this for just a moment. This morning, and very much as we speak and as we hear, Barack Obama is taking the oath of office. Of the President of the United States of America. And boy, it just gives me goosebumps to think of the things that he's accomplished and the challenges that are lying ahead. The fitting theme of this inauguration is faith in America's future, and couldn't be any more appropriate, I think. Recent horrific events have shattered our nation's ability to feel safe in places that normally offer us hope: our houses of worship, our schools, and our communities. While we don't understand the reasons why these events have happened, it is now time for us to focus on healing and resolution. As Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. once said, we must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. And I can't think of any more appropriate words. The man was, yeah. His wisdom and his insights and his faith are with us today. So good things. While the President leads our nation and provides us hope for the future, we must also do our part here in Tempe. Our Tempe Human Relations Commission, which was established in 1996 by the Mayor and Council, has intentionally looked for ways to create an inclusive community. Reflecting back on their history, the Commission has conquered many issues in Tempe while seeking opportunities to lay a proactive foundation of inclusion. Many of our existing programs and practices stem from the work of the Tempe Human Relations Commission, such as advocating for the creation of the Diversity Office, the Diversity Dialogue Programs, the Diversity Supplier Program, and the MLK Diversity Awards. So lots of good things, and a special thanks again to the Tempe Human Relations Commission. Good. As I mentioned earlier, this event today would not be possible without the generous support of our presenting sponsor, Veolia Transportation. Because of their generosity, we are able to enjoy our MLK celebration this morning for a mere price of $5 for breakfast, okay? Incredible support from Veolia Transportation. This is truly a community event where everyone has the opportunity to attend and to honor Dr. King. With that, it's very much my honor and my privilege to introduce Mr. Jack Pisano, who is our General Manager of Veolia Transportation.
Well, I feel like I've been to church already today, and we got more to go. On behalf of Veolia Transportation, we are honored to be the co-event sponsors today. Dr. Martin Luther King's Diversity Awards brunch. We are proud to have sponsored this event for the past 5 years, and God willing, we're going to sponsor it for 5 more. With Veolia comes a commitment to our motto, Together We Care, and a commitment to our partner, the City of Tempe, as we believe together we can make a difference. In case you're not familiar with Veolia Transportation, we provide the Valley Metro bus service and the neighborhood orbit service in the city of Tempe. We also provide the flash service for those of you that attend ASU, and also we provide express service to our downtown commuters. We have over, thank you. We have over 400 employees, of which 55% are minorities. 100 of our employees live in the beautiful city of Tempe. And we are very proud of our leadership team, which is comprised of 10 managers, 2 are women, 5 are people of color, and so let's hear it for our diversity. As the 2010 recipients of the Diversity Award, Veolia understands what an honor it is to receive this award. At Veolia, we believe in the city of Tempe's diversity vision. With diversity comes strength. In Tempe, we are working hard at creating an inclusive workplace to meet the needs of an increasingly diverse community that we serve. Most importantly, Veolia believes in the values of the person. We are celebrating today Dr. Martin Luther King. We all remember from our history classes that the civil rights movement started in a small town in Montgomery, Alabama, and involved Miss Rosa Parks, who refused to give a seat up on the bus back in December 1st, 1955. I think that deserves a round of applause. Through Dr. King's leadership and nonviolent principles, they protested against local segregation laws and was successful with the civil rights movement as the U.S. Supreme Court declared local laws requiring segregation on buses unconstitutional approximately 1 year later. From Dr. Martin Luther King, we learned so much. We have so much to be thankful for. A few of his famous quotes include, "Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. The ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in a moment of comfort and convenience, but where he stands at the time of challenge and controversy." And here comes my favorite quote of all, probably some of the most wonderful words ever spoken in any speech anywhere, in any country in the world. "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but that by the content of their character." At Veolia, we believe that fostering racial equality and creating an environment of inclusion are important and are fundamental principles in how we do business. We're not just carpetbaggers just running in here. We're a fabric of the community, and we love sponsoring this event. As we value, respect, and honor our differences, we also celebrate the great victories of Dr. Martin Luther King. Today, we remember the path we were once on. As we recall the incident with Rosa Parks, it took place on a bus, and that's what we run. And believe that the road ahead of us is much brighter, much higher than even Dr. Martin Luther King could ever have imagined. Together, we embark upon new dreams because we know and we believe. Together, we are better. With strength comes diversity. With diversity comes strength. We are proud to be this morning's sponsor, and we hope you enjoyed the brunch and you'll enjoy the rest of the festivities. Thank you very much.
Again, thank you, Jack, and thank you again for your generous sponsorship. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our keynote speaker, Judge Cody Williams. Cody Williams was born and raised in Phoenix and is a graduate of the University of Oklahoma, Arizona State University, and Harvard's John F. Kennedy School of Government. He served on the Phoenix City Council from 1994 to 2002, representing the city's 8th district. He led the Greater Phoenix Black Chamber of Commerce from 2002 to 2007, and then in August of 2007, Mr. Williams was appointed to the position of Maricopa County Justice of the Peace, South Mountain. He is the only African-American justice in the 25 justice courts in Maricopa County. Mr. Williams' wife, at this time we thought it was commander, and in fact I stand corrected because his wife Jerry Williams is currently the chief of police with the city of Oxnard, California. Is that right, Judge? Yes. Very good. Great. She stands as having been one of the highest ranking officers here in Arizona, and is now the first female officer first female chief in the city of Oxnard, California. Okay. He has a daughter, Alana, and two sons, Alan and Cody. He has owned his own business since 1993, Alms and Hosanna Consulting. So with that, it is again my pleasure to introduce Judge Cody Williams.
I am so glad they put the short version of my bio in. I would have had to snatch it out of his hands otherwise. Let me tell you what a wonderful, wonderful treat it is, what a wonderful, wonderful honor it is to be in the city of Tempe celebrating Martin Luther King Jr.'s holiday in the city of Tempe, Arizona. Now, I first want to say thank you to the mayor and council, to the city manager and the diversity staff, Tempe diversity staff that made the call and the outreach, those who have the faith in the Human Relations Commission to invite me to be here, and to all of you who have chosen to spend your morning here having this wonderful brunch and missing the opportunity to listen to the second inaugural speech of the President of the United States. So for me, you have made my day. You know, it can't get much better than that. So that tells you about how, I just got a goose pimple. Can you see that on there? It's a goose. It's not a pimple, that's a goose pimple. I also must say, and it was said when we talk about the beautiful music that we've heard, but that we do celebrate today Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday. And he was a reverend. He went to divinity school. He got a PhD in theology. And throughout his speaking and throughout everything that he did, he respected everyone's rights, and we understand that. He respected everyone's right to believe how you choose to believe. And he even respected the right not to believe if you chose. But at this time, I'm going to take the liberty to pray, because that is something that if you don't include in a Martin Luther King Jr. celebration, you haven't truly celebrated the man. So at this time, I would ask you to bow your heads. Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to be with these wonderful people at this wonderful time in this unique place called Tempe, Arizona. We thank you, Lord, for the opportunity and the means to have a gathering like this that celebrates the contributions of individuals and organizations to the city of Tempe and the betterment and the quality of life of its citizenry. We pray, Lord, that you will continue to bless those of us who will leave here today and take these messages as mindful reminders of the energy that we must continue to have to make life better for all of us. Thank you for those who have served this food to us, and bless those who have prepared it. Think about all of the things, Lord, for us as we move without real consciousness from time to time. But also remind us, Lord, that while 13 years, and I'll get to that specifically, but 13 years of a man's life were we most familiar with. But for 40 years thereafter, we have lived in his shadow. And we pray, Lord, that we'll always be able to live up to those expectations. In Jesus' name we pray, amen. Now, I would be remiss if I did not take care of the first most important order of business, and that is to introduce my mother. And I'm going to ask Charlie, the city manager, would you help pull her chair out for her? Yes. Now, she's standing. Now, I told her I would do that because she said she needed to stand and stretch her legs. So, the other thing I want you to be conscious of, if you see her with an ink pen and a piece of paper, That means she is taking notes about my presentation. She will tell me how many verbs I conjugated and how many missed sentences and how many times I used the wrong word in a particular order. And she's been doing that since I was 5 years old. So thank you, Mother. And I'll do my best not to embarrass you. As I was preparing this, I can't, for those of you who I've known, and I see a lot of faces that I've touched base with, a lot of people that I've known over the years, and certainly there are a lot of you who don't know who I am, or I used to be somebody, really, you know, and if you looked at this long list of people who, you know, who are on these lists, if you live long enough, you'll be a former somebody. You know, and I formerly was a city council member in the city of Phoenix. And I grew up right on Rozier Road, which is, I believe, your Alta Vista. Is that what that is? What's this road right there? Yeah, it changes from Rozier and 24th Street and Broadway area. And as a child growing up, we didn't know that when you crossed 48th Street, you were in Tempe. You know, you just went, you know, that was where you were going. And there were really only two downtowns, and this is no disrespect to Mason, Chandler, and Glendale, and Peoria, anywhere else, but there was downtown Tempe, and there was downtown Phoenix. And the only thing that we really shared, you know, the average person just, you know, when we went to Tempe, we went to have a good time. There was a movie theater down in downtown Tempe. That was the closest to us. Otherwise, you'd have to drive a far distance. And you got to remember, I grew up in an era where there was only one screen. And so the movie theater had one movie, and then it may have two if you were lucky. So Tempe's movie theaters were our movie theaters, and we spent a lot of time here. And growing up knowing that Arizona State University was there, you know, we loved Arizona State University before the Cardinals came. And not to say anything bad about the Cardinals, it just got, it got so much harder to sneak into a game once the Cardinals got there. When I was at ASU, you could get in and run and just, you know, get you a seat and nobody bothered you. But geez, you put all the security stuff in when the Cardinals came, no kid could enjoy it anymore. You built a bigger stadium. I mean, things changed. And so I've always felt like Tempe was home. And I've always admired as I grew up what Tempe did as a small landlocked city. And when I say landlocked, I mean every other city had somewhere else to grow. Tempe couldn't grow anywhere. Scottsdale could go north, you know, Mesa and Chandler could go east and south, and Phoenix could grow west and north. But Tempe always seemed to survive. They always seemed to flourish. And as I started to grow and understand the nuances of the economy and how things were put together, once I was an elected official, I started formulating this Tempe mindset. I call it sort of, you know, the Tempe model, is that you build retail on every border with every city, and you just wait for that sucking sound. How many of you live in Phoenix? Raise your hand if you live in Phoenix. All right, how many in Mesa? All right, any Chandler people here? Gilbert? Okay, anywhere? Okay, God. How many of you spend money in Tempe at some point in your time? All of us do. And the interesting thing is that the citizenry of the city of Phoenix would always say, no, we don't want retail. Why do we need retail? I mean, look, there's a Tempe Autoplex right there. There's Arizona Mills right there. I said, because we can't afford our police chief if you don't buy some stuff in Phoenix. That's why they got a great police chief. They can afford him, and we couldn't. But I do say all that to just put in perspective that this is the little engine that could. And this engine in Tempe has been recognized across the country through the National League of Cities and States and Towns, and throughout a whole bunch of other organizations where you have a blending of a university, a city that has a dynamic council and mayor, and a city that has a dynamic and diverse history. It's always been diverse. It's always been wide open. It's always been creative. And again, I am very, very honored to be a part of this. So thank you for inviting me, and hopefully you'll invite me again one day. But let's talk about Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And as I was thinking about this presentation, I thought about how many presentations like this across the country are there. And you figure, just using our home, I know Peoria has one, and Glendale has one, and Mesa does something. There's a breakfast in Phoenix on Friday. They're marching. There's school districts that do things, and that's just in the metropolitan area. So if you just applied a 10, if you just said in every state, there were 10 King activities going on today or somewhere in this area, you'd be talking about 500 events. But we just know in the state of California, there's probably 500 events going on. So there's probably thousands of King events taking place in this country. And there are people like me standing before people like you postulating what King would be doing at this time and how he would be living in this era and how effective he would be and how his message would be received and what role he would be playing in this particular timeline. And then I looked back and I said to myself, the man was born in 1929. Believe it or not, less than 5 months after my mother. My mother, she won't let me tell you that she's 84, so I won't mention that. But you don't have to believe she's that old, because most people don't. But you figure that he graduated, he was actually born Michael King, and he changed his name, like his father before him had changed his name to Martin. A lot of people don't know that. He graduated, well, let me take that back. He did not graduate from high school. He did not graduate from high school. He left high school early and entered college when he was 15 because he had met all his prerequisites. He graduated, went to Morehouse, got his degree, graduated, moved on to get his master's degree, went on to Boston University to get his PhD. And all of that between 1948 and 55. But we don't know him yet. He has not made an impression upon anyone yet. He has not changed this country yet. But in 1955, he was thrust into the forefront with the Montgomery, Alabama bus boycott. And from 1955 through 1968, when he was assassinated, 13 years, the man was on a mission. The man didn't even know what his mission was, but he was on a mission. And each step along the way, he offered something that we've been able to latch on to. In '63 was the March on Washington and the I Have a Dream speech. He received a Nobel Prize in 1964. The March on Selma, 1965. Beyond Vietnam and the Poor People's Campaign, he began to orchestrate in 1967. And on April the 4th, 1968, he was assassinated. And I remember those days. I remember that day in '68, only because I was 8 years old, and I went to Sheridan Park Elementary School in the Roosevelt School District. And after every day of school, I would walk home to my grandmother's house. And essentially walking from here to 48th Street, if not a little shorter than that. And every day I got home, my grandmother had the stories on. Does everybody know what the stories are? She watched her stories. Soap operas, for those who you don't. But those, she called them the stories. They were the stories. And they were 30-minute stories at that time, and they all had characters, and she would give me a rundown as to what was happening in the stories. And we would sit and I'd eat with her and we'd talk about it, and I couldn't speak out. I mean, you couldn't talk during the stories. So when the commercials came, she'd go do something, she'd have a cleaning rag, she'd go clean, and bam, right after those two commercials. And you didn't have to advertise a lot of products. So she was ready back sitting down. But one day I came home from school, and she was there looking at the television. And again, back then it was just black and white. And she had tears in her eyes and she was crying. And that was so out of character. I mean, I still to this day don't remember tears from my grandmother's eyes very often. Very strong woman, very, very brilliant woman. And she was looking at the television, for me, it was Walter Cronkite. And I hated Walter Cronkite because he was making my grandmother cry. I was mad at Walter Cronkite. And I had no idea that she was crying because of the message that he was providing about the assassination that had occurred in Memphis, Tennessee earlier that day. It was in the evening in Memphis, which meant our timeline made it earlier in the day. And so for years, that stood out in my mind. And a year or two later, they changed the name of Sheridan Park to Martin Luther King Jr. And as I grew up, I started to understand who this person was, because while those 13 years defined what he had done, it would never come close to defining what he has meant to us as a society. Now let's think about that for a second. If we truly are one of thousands of events going on around in this country, what other person do we celebrate in a similar fashion where we do similar things? As much as I love President Lincoln, we do not create civil wars every time we say Happy President's Day. We don't go on a revolution when we talk about Washington. When we think about the other people that we have created an environment for, none of them create the kind of mindset that we have here. And it's bigger than in any individual. It creates a message of what we truly are, whether we want to be or not. We have spent years trying to define who we are. But he always understood what we could be. And that's how he spoke to us. He spoke to us in those terms about when my children can be judged by the content of their character. When little white boys and white girls and little black boys and black girls can play together and grow up and live together. I mean, he spoke to us about those things. How many, if I gave you two colors, red and blue, what comes to mind? Politics, gangs, Pepsi and Coca-Cola. I mean, if you put it in that context, you know, red and blue have been fighting each other for a long time. Red and blue just don't like each other. But when you think about the competition, whether it is Coca-Cola or Pepsi, whether it is Crips or Bloods, whether it is Democrats or Republicans, the bottom line is that if we have good red ideas and we've got good blue ideas, we should be coming up with some awesome purple solutions. Shouldn't we? I mean, if you really love this state and you really love this community and you really appreciate other people's values, the heck with what color you bring to the table. Purple's a pretty color. I do. So that's the color of my napkin. I didn't even use it yet. By the way, I do want to thank you for the breakfast sponsorship. I will be needing a second helping of food when I finish, so, you got me covered. Okay, we're fine. Oh, and you are truly not a diverse organization unless you have a tall, dark, handsome guy working for you. See, that's what diversity is. You sit next to that guy, watch out. But anyway, I digress. Therein lies, when I asked that question about how King would be living in this day and how hard his messages were. Because remember, back in those days, there were only 3 networks. There were only 1 or 2 local stations. And so when something went on, everybody flipped to that station. We'd have ABC, NBC, and CBS, which was 3, 10, and 12. And then we had Channel 5, KPHO, and then there were 2 others on the higher number bands. So you could expect at least 3 of those 4 to cover whatever was going on, and then you could watch Rifleman or, something else on Channel 5, Wallace and Ladmo. So if King had a message, if Kennedy had a message, if Johnson had a message, if anybody had a message, if the Cuban Missile Crisis was going on, everybody was on the same page, worried about the same thing. We knew what was happening, and we had a concept that something was going on. Now, we didn't know all of the bottom line truths, but we did trust that this was a nation that was strong enough to survive all of the things that we've done. So let's ask ourselves about where King would be in his message today. Because I do challenge you to think that part of the problem would be today for a Martin Luther King Jr. is that what channel would carry the message? Which of the 365 channels would carry the message? Because they don't all carry it. I mean, I can always get an infomercial. I bought way too much stuff with them infomercials. But if you think about the fact that he would have to compete with a society that is bombarded with information, where would his messages come from? Who would be helping him deliver them? Why do we have to fabricate and put together and orchestrate opportunities to say what needs to be said? You think about the choices that our networks make and our media makes. It troubles me that if you're familiar with this, the kid Teo thing, yeah, the football player. He had a girlfriend that ESPN announced had died, and he played a football game and did very well. And then life went on. And then somebody called him and told him that the person was not dead and it was a hoax. And all of a sudden now, that's news again. Well, let me just say that I haven't heard anybody say, wow, that's really great that the person we thought was dead is not dead. Did anybody hear, have you heard anybody say, wow, I'm glad she's not dead? Because the preference is to determine who's lying. It's not an interest of whether he's a good football player. It's not where the information came from or how it got to him. It's what can we create from a tabloid mindset that creates ratings. For what it's worth, I don't care. He didn't spend one taxpayer dollar. He didn't fool me because I wasn't, it was news. He hasn't made any money off of it, from my understanding. The university didn't spend any money on it. The only people who are upset are the people who wrote about it and who put it on television, and they can't get to the bottom of it. And they will not let it go. And that's the same thing that happens with situations that have no importance in the big picture of things. when we drive by, we do drive-bys every day in these communities, all around the country. We are drive-by shooters, baby. We shoot our eyes right out the window, right past poverty, right past blight, right past upset. We just keep driving. And half the time we got our heads down like this. And for what it's worth, we have the generation of children who have the strongest thumbs ever. Now, I'm not sure if that's what we were trying to do when we created the health initiative, but at least our thumbs are strong, baby. And that's another issue for us to consider, is that the importance of the information and how that information is delivered. Now, I feel that there is a problem with the fact that we depend on technology so much. Now, I'm not saying that technology is bad, but I'm also saying that the dependence on it can create unintended consequences. We hear about viruses on our computers. I stand to tell you, and I will say it again as loud as I can, I believe that the dependence on technology helps to make ignorance contagious. Now, I wanted to be real clear on how we defined it, so I went to Google on my phone, my technology phone, and I went to Wikipedia. And I'm going to read this. Ignorance is a state of being uninformed, then in parentheses, lack of knowledge. The word ignorant is an adjective describing a person in the state of being unaware and is often used as an insult to describe individuals who deliberately ignore or disregard important information or facts. Okay? Now, it should not be considered an insult when you see someone who is deliberately ignoring the things that are before us, and you say, man, that's just ignorant. Oh, well, that's a harsh word. Well, you're ignoring it. I mean, I know what a root word is. A root word is ignore. And that's not an insult. But if you choose to ignore the things that are around us, the things that are going on in our communities, then we insult the hard work of a person like Martin Luther King Jr. I think it's a total affront to the time for what he died for. The man gave over 2,500 speeches. He was arrested over 20 times. Countless numbers of times he was assaulted, either beaten by clubs, hit by fists, thrown rocks at, dogs attacked him. This man did his thing for other people. When we were growing up as someone over 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 years old, the conversation was more about the family and us getting to the place we were trying to get to. No offense to our young people today, who are often said to be the smartest children of the generation, smartest children that this country has ever created. I would argue that they have the potential to be that. They have the potential to be that because ignorance can be contagious. When you and I studied for school, we had to go to the library, we had to check out the book, or we had to use the book in the library. We had to read the book, we had to write notes, we had to formulate sentences, and we had to leave the reference material there. So somewhere along the line, we were retaining the information we were sent to get. We learned. Today, when I ask my sons, and I have two of them, and they are 18 and 19, they go straight to their phone, pull up the information, give me the answer, and move on. Now, they have become very good at using technology to provide the answer instantly, but they have no motivation to retain the information that they have retrieved. And there is the difference. There is the difference, ladies and gentlemen, from being the smartest generation of young people that have ever walked the face of this earth and being that person forever. Because if you allow our children, we allow our children to communicate in our text language with all of the three-letter abbreviations of words that should not be abbreviated. How many times have you sent a message back to somebody asking them what did those three letters mean? I do it all. What is this? Oh, really? Okay. So what is this one? I mean, and then you imagine how they communicate in their written format when it's time to go to school. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have any ability to influence any young person who has to write a paper and they tell you that their teacher wants them to do the rough draft on the computer, make them write the rough draft on paper first. Then make them take that paper and transfer it to the computer. I read some of my son's stuff on the computer first draft, and they couldn't even make a paper out of it. I couldn't even fix it. You know, it's like, wow, I'm a miracle worker, but I can't even get to that one. How did you get, what? I don't understand it. But what I am saying is that if you have the ability to write and put something on paper and then take the time to transfer it, thank you very much. It's purple. And type it in as you're reading it, you will transfer a better product, because if it doesn't make sense, you'll recognize it. I don't care what you do. You'll recognize it. And these are those kinds of simple things that create the differences between those young people who can be extremely intelligent and those who have the potential to be extremely intelligent. We have to encourage retention of information and help them logically formulate how to regurgitate it so it makes sense. I sit as a judge, and many times I have to ask defendants standing in front of me what happened. And I marvel at some of the stories that I get. You know, I think one day I had at least 13 people whose grandmother died, you know. I said, all 30 days ago, everybody's grandmother died, right? And that's why you didn't pay your fine. Okay, well, that's why you were in jail, okay? Blame it on your grandmother, okay? But there are times when I get a 19, 20, 21, 22-year who can't tell me from start to finish what happened. And I love parents who come to court. I love parents who come to court. I have seen more parents crying for their children in front of me than I have children crying for themselves. Parents are aching because that child had had a DUI, or they did an assault, or they've done something to harm somebody else or their future. They see it, it agonizes them. But not one child, not 1 out of 20, not 1 out of 50 that stood before me while that parent was crying has cried along with that parent. And there's a communication piece that's missing. And if King were alive today, he would be working his butt off trying to figure out how to transition where we have gotten to today and how we got there, and to re-energize the we of us. I grew up wanting what my parents wanted for me. They wanted me to do better than them. They wanted me to be educated, and I wanted to be educated. I wanted to be what they wanted me to be. But there are studies that will tell us now that this generation of children, white, black, orange, purple, or pink, will be the first generation that will not succeed the successes of their parents. And that's major in this country. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that they want what they can be given. They want what can be given. And if they lose it, they are not wanting to work for it to get it back. They are wanting you to give it to them again. And if you won't give it to them, they want grandma, uncle, or someone else to give it to them. Now, should they have it? I don't know. But I know that if we are using our resources to resupply the broken technology without encouraging the responsibility for not getting it broken to begin with, and or to replace it because it's yours, then we're missing the opportunity to create a motivation for them to get it back. And I, personally, have been a great culprit of that very mindset. I have had to fight with that consciousness for years. I put my son, 18 years old, on a plane today. He's going back to college. On his way out here, he was to bring me some things, all of which he left. He forgot. Okay, I got you. All right, good. I'll get it later. Okay. He gets back. He gets on. I get him to the airport. We're checking him in. He tells me two things. Dad, I forgot my headphones. Dad, and I said, well, you just have to fly without them. Well, it just won't be as an enjoyable flight as I thought it would be. Quote, unquote, I lied to you not. I lied to you not. It's just not going to be as enjoyable as I thought it would be. And it's an hour flight. Phoenix to Burbank, people. Phoenix to Burbank. And then, oh, and by the way, Dad, I left my cell phone. Cell phone is at the house. Now, he's been on that cell phone, I mean, every day, every minute, 5,000, 6,000 text messages, Facebooking, and all of this other stuff. I said, son, did it ever occur to you to pack your stuff, to stop texting at midnight maybe and put it in somewhere, you know? Never did. So now I'm in this running battle with his mother who can't reach him. You need to mail him his phone. And I'm like, whoa, time out. When did a phone for a kid that I'm paying for become a right? It's a privilege. And if there weren't so many preschool toys in the audience, I would tell it like I told it when I said it. But I'm going to find a better way to say it. But I said I am not going to jump through hoops to get him a phone that he couldn't remember to get. Oh, you punishing him because he forgot all your other. No, this is not punishment. This is joy. I am having so much fun. I'm glad you forgot your phone, and I'll get it to you when I get a chance. But ladies and gentlemen, it's important to remember that part of what Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy was to us is our motivation to continue to do what we're doing right now. Like I said before, no other person who we celebrate have we continuously celebrated every year, somewhere, all the time. 15 years now in the city of Tempe. We continue to live his legacy. We continue to recognize people who live in that shadow of the King, Martin Luther King Jr., and what he stood for. And that's powerful. We've got to motivate ourselves in our homes, in our communities, in our schools, with our children, with our seniors, with all of the diversity that exists today, what we can't do is water it down. Be afraid of a watered down MLK message. Be afraid of technology losing the power of his messages, of his speeches, of his marches, of his time in jail and who he sat with and the bombs to his home and all of the things that he stood for, willing to die for, really knowing in his heart, and we all can read about it, he knew he was going to die. He knew someone was going to kill him one day, but did not stop at all, did not check himself, did not go hide, didn't go to Canada, didn't go anywhere. He stayed in the South. He didn't go to Washington. He didn't go anywhere. He stayed in the South. He fought the good fight. And that's what we have to do. If we are going to continue 5 years from now, 15 years from now, 30 years from now, long after we're gone, and ask these very young people who are sitting amongst us to continue doing what we are trying to do here today, then we've got to engage this society and make it purple quick. Because the fights that we are fighting are not winnable. It is too easy to fix a gun, but a whole lot harder to fix a person. Those people who are shooting up people in schools, they're not even, they're not looking, oh, where the black kids at? Let me shoot some black kids. They're shooting anybody that's in the school. They're not looking for minorities to shoot in Colorado movie theaters. They weren't interested in the diversity of the people in Tucson when Gabrielle Giffords was shot. If you look at the faces of those three individuals, just those three, it's hard to tell the difference. If eyes are bugged, if you notice, their eyes are just, they're like, where are we? Somewhere in here, we've got to accept things like whoever says guns don't kill people, people kill people. They both kill them. You can't load that gun the guns can't load themselves. They don't carry themselves to the place of shooting. And the craziness of the people who are behind them, they work in unison. So while we're trying to fix the minds of the people who are sick, we've got to stop the availability of those sick people to get access to the things that would hurt us all. Good red ideas and good blue ideas should come up with some purple solutions that are awesome if we care enough about each other. And what I'll sort of wrap this up with is, if Martin Luther King Jr. were here, he'd probably have, a Samsung Note 2, because it's big and you got big letters. He could see it. He'd probably, may even have an iPad. He'd probably have 5 or 6 email addresses, 2 or 3 phones. But the man would be striving to do more. Whether he was in a wheelchair, on a cane, walker, whether he was in the north, the south, the east, or the west. He wouldn't be doing it by endorsing candidates for election. He'd be in the communities. And he would be hoping that because of the 300 channels, that there would be 300 Martin Luther King Jr. type things going on all over this country. He would want there to be a king in us, an MLK in us, that there would be these folk and you folk and us folk who still believed in those things he was willing to die for. He would find a way to use the internet to get those messages out. He would create the ideas and he would help to formulate them, and he would help to find the people who could help get those things done. But he's not here, and you've got to do it now. And if you don't do it, then these young people here won't have a shot. We'll be more concerned about how satisfied with what we've accomplished as opposed to striving to be better than we've ever been in our lives. 2013 is but another year to be alive. How special you choose to make it, how much you do other than what you've done in the past, how willing you become to get uncomfortable with something and to be unsatisfied with anything so that you will strive to make it better. That will be the defining message. That will be why we will celebrate next year for MLK. So we can talk about how strong your message was, how powerful your activity was, how great and necessary your achievements have become. You, ladies and gentlemen, are why we have King breakfasts and brunches and marches. Because if you don't come, who will? We might have 5,000 King events going on, but I still represents only about 2% of the population. So we, in that small number, will have to do great things in a very, very, very short period of time. God bless you and keep you.
The Martin Luther King Diversity Awards were created by the Tempe Human Relations Commission to honor those individuals, businesses, and organizations in Tempe that have demonstrated a commitment to celebrating diversity and inclusion in our city. The individuals, businesses, and groups that we honor today know very well the meaning of the phrase, "Together we're better," and the community of Tempe is a better place for their fine and ongoing efforts. Today we will present the 15th Annual Diversity Awards to individuals and community groups in 4 different categories. As I announce your names for each of the respective winners, please come forward and join us on the stage. The first category today is the individual adult. The first recipient of the individual adult category is Normalicia Blanco. Yeah. Normalicia Blanco uses her many talents to bring people together through music, events, and education. She volunteers her time to advise on and promote community diversity events such as the Tempe Tardeada, Regional Unity Walk, and Scottsdale Hispanic Festival through her entertainment knowledge. She volunteers every year to MC the 8-hour Tempe Tardeada, in addition to booking the entertainment. Normalicia works as the parent liaison at Frank Elementary School, where students from all grade levels and ethnic backgrounds call her mommy. When she sees students in need, Normalicia takes action by personally making phone calls to secure food, clothing, or whatever may be needed. She is a positive mentor to both her students and to their parents. Finally, Normalicia has started many programs such as Fit Kids to encourage fitness and health for children in her school's Guadalupe neighborhood. Normalicia Blanco. The next adult awardee is Ira King. Ira? Ira King is a Korean War combat veteran and retired educator and school administrator, but he keeps busier now in retirement than he has ever been before. Dr. Ira King volunteers his time, energy, and experience to promote and strengthen the ideals of Dr. Martin Luther King. He is routinely called upon as a community leader to assist Tempe's police department in many areas, including minority recruitment efforts. He is a member of the police department's Citizens Review Board, where his knowledge of the city government, as well as his relationships with the community, instills mutual trust, respect, and understanding while addressing citizen complaints. In addition, Dr. King has served on numerous city boards and committees, working on improving the lives of children, minorities, the disabled, and the elderly. Welcome, Dr. King. Our final awardees in the adult category are Hector and Jeannie Zavaleta. Jeannie Zavaleta is a retired educator and counselor who is now working with undocumented students and families. Hector Zavaleta served in Hispanic ministries in the Synod of the Southwest for 28 years and now retired, works as a volunteer with families and others in poverty. Jeannie and Hector are the pioneers of the DREAM Act, working with students wishing to graduate from college, preventing deportations, supporting students, raising funds for scholarships, finding pro bono lawyers, advocating to community groups and churches on their behalf, and helping them seek their pathway to citizenship. Please welcome Hector and Jeannie Zavaleta.
I have been asked to explain to you why this award means so much to us. Dr. King would be 84. Hector and I are in the same range, so we remember vividly all of the things that happened during those years. Dr. King gave us hope and courage as we worked in the, in the migrant camps and the fields. He inspired us to keep working for justice for the men, women, and the children who were working so hard to prepare crops for us. Time changes, the challenge never ends, and the work goes on. We've worked the last 10 years with the DREAM Act. It hasn't passed 10 years, but out of that has come the most amazing youth leadership that I have ever known. The students, these undocumented students assumed leadership, they assumed responsibility, and they're going to be leaders from now on. There are 6 of them at the table over here. I would like to mention Dulce Matus, Herman Godness, Erica Andiola, Marina Acosta, Ileana Sanchez, and their advisor, Carmen Cornejo. We thank you. Thank you to the Tempe City Council and to all of you who came.
Our next category honors the next generation of community leaders, our youth. Our awardees in the youth category are Nick Atkins. Nick Atkins. Nick Atkins is a senior at Compadre High School and has been involved with the Stand and Serve Club since 6th grade. He promotes their message by spreading safety, equality, and respect to prevent violence to self and others. Nick is a peer educator for middle school students from Fees Preparatory Academy and Gilliland Middle School, where he is a positive role model for the younger students. He spends every Tuesday learning about changing the law to help those who have been victimized and bullied, and then he spends every Wednesday leading after-school activities with his students. He focuses his time on teaching the students what it means to be safe, responsible bystander, and to speak up for others when they are being bullied. Please welcome Nick Atkins. The next award is in the educational category. The first award winners in this category is Julieta de Rosier. Julieta? Julieta de Rosier is a parent of children attending Kyrene de la Mariposa School. As a volunteer for the school, Julieta has been instrumental in creating a multicultural fair for the children and their families. For the past 8 years, she has coordinated inviting others to participate in the fair to share their home cultures, dances, and entertainment. There are approximately 20 countries represented each year at the fair. Julieta has developed amazing organizational plans and advertising posters and has invited people from across the valley to come and share their traditions. Because of Julieta's work, students and their families enjoy an evening of beautiful entertainment and appreciation of the families in their communities. Welcome, Julieta. Our next educational awardee is Jan O'Malley. Jan? Jan O'Malley has worked more than 15 years on the Corona del Sol High School Unity program. She sponsors the club and single-handedly supports the Unity Club, Unity Leader Program, Awareness Days, and Aztec Town, which is a 4-day diversity camp in Prescott. Each of these programs brings a unique sense of community to Corona del Sol and helps create positive school experiences for the students. Ms. O'Malley attends and leads weekly meetings to ensure the success of these programs, trains student leaders, teaches the principles of healthy discussion, does fundraisers, and coordinates student scholarships. Jan O'Malley has enriched the lives of thousands of students through her work. Welcome, Jan O'Malley. Our final awardee in the education category is Elizabeth Whitesell. Elizabeth Whitesell recently retired from Marcos de Niza High School, where she worked as a special education teacher. For 12 of her years there, Elizabeth served as the founding Stand and Serve Club sponsor, educating her students about identity, respect, diversity, and issues affecting their school and community. Through her leadership role, Elizabeth consistently promoted diversity by educating and modeling safety, equality, and respect as norms. In addition to her in addition to her role in Stand and Serve, she was also a faculty co-chair for the Respect and Responsibilities Committee. Welcome, Jan. Elizabeth Whitesell, sorry. Good, good. Our next award is in the community group category. The first recipient of this award is for the All God's Children Collectors Club. Good. The All God's Children's Collectors Club of Arizona was established in 1995 to promote the joy of collecting. However, they have also made it their mission to give back to others in the community. In just 2012 alone, they have worked with and supported the Thomas J. Pappas Children's First Academy School, the Tempe Tumbleweed Youth Resources Center, the United Food Bank, Kids Cafe, and the Tempe Community Action Agency's Food Drive, the Sojourner Center, and the Wounded Warrior Program. They hold back-to-school supply drives, bottled water drives, hygiene drives, food drives, and health workshops. In addition, the group has sponsored a scholarship for a Tempe High School graduate. The work that they do embodies the values of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. by focusing on education, social change and reform, health awareness, and providing help and support to those who are in need, regardless of race, gender, social status, and sexual orientation. Please welcome all of the representatives of All God's Children Collectors Club. Our next recipient in the community group category is the City of Tempe Gay Straight Alliance. The City of Tempe's Gay Straight Alliance exemplifies a commitment to diversity by striving to create and maintain a safe, productive, and energized work environment for all Tempe employees, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender identity. They were instrumental in developing curriculum for a segment of the city's inclusion training program, focused around developing a greater understanding of the LGBT community, while working to ensure that all Tempe employees have the information and awareness necessary for a safe and equitable work environment is a top priority for the GSA. The group is also committed to extending its time and energy to the entire Tempe community. The group supports community and youth groups, including Habitat for Humanity, 1 in 10 Youth Group, Mulligan's Manor, and the CEDA Food Pantry. Please welcome the City of Tempe Gay Straight Alliance. Our final awardee in the community group category is Tempe High School Stand and Serve Club. Tempe High School? Yeah. The Tempe High School Stand and Serve Club is celebrating 17 years this year. In 1996, with the support of the THS administration and faculty, Stand and Serve founded its first school club at Tempe High. The program educates youth on oppression and incites them to participate in anti-bullying work through group discussions, volunteerism, engaging in community events, and by reaching out to other youth. The Tempe High School Stand and Serve Club is the largest S&S club in all of the Phoenix and Tempe areas. Please welcome Tempe High School Stand and Serve Club. And now let's give a round of applause to all of our award winners in the spirit of Martin Luther King. I would now like to introduce Kate Hanley of the Tempe Community Council. Kate will be presenting the Unity Grants. Kate?
Thank you, Emma.
You bet. Good.
Since 2000, the City of Tempe has proudly and funded our pilot and ongoing school programs. These programs reinforce anti-violence and respect for diversity among students in the Tempe Union High School District. Civility, courtesy, and respect for others are core values in our community. These are the core values that are reinforced and refined among students through our school-based programs. The Diversity Unity Grant Program, and more importantly, the students and staff who drive these programs, are the realization of this mission and philosophy for our community. As we honor these programs, I'd like to take a minute to thank the following people: the Tempe Community Council Board of Directors, who volunteer to review and evaluate these grants, the Tempe Human Relations Commission, for their ongoing commitment to strengthen and enrich these important programs for Tempe students, the Superintendent, Ken Baca, and the principals who immediately saw the importance of this grant program and helped to create unique programs for their schools. And most importantly, because I think it's a significant challenge, we'd like to thank the Tempe City Council for their strong support of the Diversity Unity Grant Program as they continue to foster and promote civility, courtesy, and respect for others. We're grateful for your support, especially in these very difficult budgetary times. I'd like to ask representatives from both Corona del Sol and Marcos Denisa to come forward. And as they're making their way to the stage, I'd like to briefly tell you about their winning programs. Corona del Sol, you just heard a little bit about this program when Jan O'Malley got her recognition. They are being awarded for their Unity program that includes 2 awareness days to discuss prejudice, violence, bullying, teen suicide, self-image, dialogue versus debate, and role modeling. A 4-day intensive camp follows the guidelines of Anytown program, and on the Corona campus it's called Unitown. And then they also have weekly Unity Club meetings that allow the students to gather in a safe place, discuss a variety of subjects, including to learn about one another's religions, culture, gender issues, home environment, global issues pertaining to human rights, and most importantly, plan the trainings that the young people are going to participate in. These are student-led activities. Accepting for Corona del Sol, Sammy Rodriguez, and Giovanni Quintera. The next program is Marcus Denisa High School. They're being awarded for their Diversity Awareness Program. This is an annual school-wide celebration focusing on accepting, understanding, and celebrating one another's differences. This program includes activities that educate and increase awareness of positive alternatives to violence or self-destructive behaviors. It also has facilitation and development of peer mentoring and leadership skills, and speaker presentations throughout the year that focus on topics such as the dangers of alcohol and drugs, gangs, disability, racial issues, hate crimes, respecting yourself, making good choices, and building self-esteem. On behalf of the City of Tempe and the Human Relations Commission and the Tempe Community Council, we thank these student leaders for their programs. And accepting for Marcus Denisa, Swyla Moore, and Irana Parker. It is clear that through their eyes, we're going to see a much brighter future. Thank you.
Well, a special thanks goes out to every single one of you. Thank you so much for being here and supporting not only our diversity efforts, but supporting our commemoration in celebration of Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. Our community values and celebrates our diversity and the strength that it brings, evidenced by all of you that are here this morning. Let's continue to remember that and live it every day. Thank you all very much, and make it a great day by going out into our community and with the spirit and the life of Dr. Martin Luther King in your hearts. Thank you all very much.